Welcome to Health IQ. I'm Dr. Alan Siegel. Tonight we have special guests, Joe Palumbo, principal of the Pleasantville High School, and John Bauerlein, athletic director of Pleasantville High School. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
How are we doing today?
Excited to be here.
Good. So tonight I want to invite you guys here to the show, a little bit different show than what I normally do, but I think athletics and youth sports in the communities and the high schools is kind of a big deal, right? It's an important part of our daily lives and important part of student lives throughout the high school. Tell me what's going on in your school from overall administrative policy for kids with sports injuries or kids that are playing sports. What is the school doing as far as implementing new programs and procedures in the schools?
Well, the coaches are certified in first aid, CPR, but we're fortunate enough to have had for a number of years now an athletic trainer, which helps balance injuries as well as trying to get the kids back on the field or the court, whatever sport they play. So it's beneficial to have someone around that has a lot of knowledge regarding injuries, sports injuries.
Yeah, I think Pleasantville as a district, as a principal, as an administrator, having the decision to bring on athletic trainer, as a combined effort between athletic director, principal, superintendent, board of education, I think that's sort of an important decision. To tell us about that process that you guys have made over the years. A lot of schools don't have athletic trainers, and the importance of doing that for your students.
And having Justin on our campus, he's currently serving as one of our athletic trainers, has been a great opportunity this year. He's visible in our weight room. That's before practices, and he's typically visible during practices. I just left the high school probably a half an hour ago, and he was there for our last practice of the evening. It was our girls' basketball practice.
And prior to that, he was at the modified boys' basketball game in the middle school.
Right, so he's highly visible, and the nice thing about having him in this position that he's in is that he can work proactively with students to make sure that there's stretching taking place, there's treatment for minor injuries that might have occurred on an earlier practice that week, and the students really feel comfortable working with him, and his expertise is phenomenal as well.
The visibility too, parents are comfortable, they know who he is because of his high visibility, so they'll come up to him to ask questions about maybe what they could be doing at home.
Okay, so there's been a good feedback from the community. You think that is an important part of having an athletic program within a high school to have an athletic trainer? You feel like?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago when the economy wasn't doing well, one of my first years here, we had to put up a series of tier cuts. And one of the cuts was, possible cuts, was the athletic trainer, and I was very surprised at the number of people who came out in support of not making that cut and looking in other areas to cut, such as middle school sports were up for possibly cutting to trim the budget. Fortunately, nothing that serious was cut, some minor things, but the community they value the athletic trainer,
right? Which is great. As a principal, you have to manage the whole school, academics, athletics, arts, everything, and there could be injuries in other things. People doing theater and all kinds.
We had a band injury earlier this year.
All kinds of things happen. So just having a team of professionals within the school, school nurse, school doctor, athletic trainer. And coordinating, the healthcare aspects of a school. Just tell us, about that aspect of having proper healthcare administration within a school setting, whether high school, middle school. Obviously, you're the principal of the high school, but that's that important team effort of working.
Well, and you've used the word team a number of times, and that's exactly how I would describe the partnership that exists in the building. John has an excellent relationship with his staff. He's got all of our coaches, like you said, are certified in first aid and CPR. The procedures and process for reporting sports-related injuries is very clear. And then we've got a chain of communication, based on that procedure and protocol in place, so that if students are injured, at a game or during practice or even outside of campus, we share that information and we put a plan in place to make sure that the student is supported inside of the classroom and certainly has support as far as athletics goes.
The first thing is if it's an athlete that's injured, the coaches fill out an incident report, within 24 hours, submit it to the nurse so she's aware of it and possibly can have conversation with the family physician if needed. Depending on the injury, say it's an ankle sprain and we have some, the athlete is on crutches, there's elevators in the school. The teachers will let them leave class early or get to class early before, so they're not in the hallway. If it's a concussion, usually the guidance counselor and a concussion team is involved, and a plan is in place depending on the severity of the concussion as to what the kid can do as far as schoolwork.
Concussions it's a hot topic, and like you said, that team effort with all the professionals in the school, and including the communication between principal, whomever would deal with the teachers.
Well, yeah, and that's if I could just interrupt for a moment. So that's one more piece of it. There's a whole academic side.
Yes.
Our nurse attends a weekly child study team meeting that we have, and one of her first reports at each meeting is an update on any kind of school-related injuries.
Right.
So she'll share that information with our team, which consists of a school psychologist, all of our school counselors, assistant principals, a few members of the instructional staff, and if there are any academic concerns that may exist as a result of an injury, we certainly work proactively put plans in place to make sure that students are supported.
Certain types of injuries, whether it's a head injury or other injuries that are maybe causing pain for that particular student, could negatively affect their academic performance, and to no fault of their own.
Right.
And sometimes there's medications, there could be other side reactions to other things, and it's important that the whole team is aware of what's going on so that the children are.
And we put an educational plan in place that the teachers are informed about regarding that student, and then when the student is cleared, then that's a whole other process that sometimes parents don't understand, where their doctor clears them and says, okay, they can get back.
Right.
And ultimately our school doctor has to clear the child.
Yeah.
So usually sometimes there's a discussion between those two physicians, but then there's what's called the return to play, which is a slow progression. They need to get up to game speed. So that's usually monitored by Justin, the trainer. There's non-contact the first couple days of
So he's the first
return to play.
to monitor that program.
Yes, yes.
And that's another importance of the athletic trainer on site and working with the other professionals to report that progress, make sure everyone's on the same page, and then to go forward. Like you said, you mentioned the parents. So, parents sometimes are easy to work with, sometimes they're not, and that's the truth. And I think you probably have both had experiences where you've had to manage their expectations, right? Of when can my child, especially if it's in season, right? The patient, the student is in season, they want to get back as quick as possible. It's not like they're waiting for the next season, for the next sport. They want to get back to football or basketball or lacrosse or whatever they're playing. And
And I have a policy in place regarding that, where if they miss 3 consecutive practices or times that the teams meet, they need at least 2 practices prior to a game.
Okay.
That's not a concussion, but that's maybe another injury that's prevented them from practicing. And if they've missed 4 consecutive practices, they need 3 practices to get back.
Okay, so you have an overall policy.
Well, John worked really hard this past summer to create an athletic handbook, and that document can be found on the
website,
Pleasantville High School website. And I would encourage all parents whose children are thinking about joining some of our athletic teams to take some time and look at that handbook, and certainly give us a call if there are any questions related to our policies or procedures.
Yeah, and we're also having a symposium on March 7th for parents and student athletes if they want to come. We'll have a panel. Dr. Siegel, you'll be there, one of the people on the panel, and that is trying to educate parents on how they can handle or put a plan in place that if their son or daughter sustains an injury, that they have a plan prior to, rather than a lot of times. Who do I call? What orthopedic do I use?
Well,
that should already be in place.
Exactly. And I think the symposium, the purpose of it, and hopefully our goal, is to educate not just high school student athletes, but really youth and community-based, parents that have children that are playing sports at really at any age, because really accidents and injuries can happen at any age, some more severe than others. But we find there isn't a plan. You guys have a very good plan for your high school, which is great, and it's working, for the most part, right? Youth athletics out on a Saturday, Sunday, there's a lot of them still don't have a plan. Kid goes down, what's the plan besides maybe call 911, administer first aid? That's good, and that's obviously should be done if that's what's warranted. But knowing who is your own team, do you have your own team? Do you have your orthopedic? Do you have your pediatric specialist? Do you have your concussion specialist? Do you have a physical therapist that you like to work with? Non-ortho sports medicine doctor. It's very important to have a handbook, a plan, just like you've established at the high school level, but really it should start at the youth level. And I think communicating that to the community is a big part of the symposium.
Well, now that you mention that, I did send it out to our Dad's Club, which is a big organization that is a feeder program to our middle school and high school sports. They offer a lot to the children of Pleasantville. So I sent it to them, and I also sent it to our ASO soccer youth program, which they're going to forward it to all their email distribution lists. Yeah. I also sent it to some of the local athletic directors, inviting their communities if they wanted to come to it, because I think it is important to have a plan in place.
Right, it's great. And from a principal's perspective, do you ever have to deal with parents trying to rush children back on, or student athletes back onto the field? And has that ever come across your plate? Does that usually go to the athletic director?
Well, in the high school that I left, I dealt with a few scenarios that were similar to that. We've not really dealt with many incidents, I'm thinking, in the last year and a half since I've been here, where parents have gone against medical orders. Right. And so I would say that for the majority of the parents I've worked with, the emphasis has been to get the child well and then get him or her back on the field. One of the concerns I always have as a principal is the reporting piece, right? Because when we put some of these processes in place and protocols, sometimes there's a dip in the amount of injuries that'll be reported, even though they may occur. So we try real hard, to counsel and coach both students and athletes to coaches, to report injuries, when they happen, so that they can be addressed early on.
Does the state require statistical reporting from the high school level for any particular injuries?
Not injuries. Justin does keep a log.
Okay,
right.
So it's not required by the state that schools report.
If I have to do a report or something, and based on injuries, I can ask Justin, can you compile a list of injuries and the severity of them, or concussions, ankle injuries. So I'm sure he would be able to break that down for me. A couple of years ago that you said that, I did have some push that the parents weren't educated. I mean, now concussions, it's in the papers, it's in the media.
They're starting to understand a little bit better.
But I did have a couple situations where, their doctor cleared them and, all right, we got a game today. Well, that's not how it works.
Right.
I was going to say, the question you asked about my experience here with parents is, the experiences I was describing in previous schools that I've worked in occurred a number of years ago. I think as the word is out there for parents in terms of the dangers and the long-term impacts. They're starting
to understand.
Right, the education piece exists.
Which is important.
And as a result, folks don't really.
It's not like everyone just got their bell rung like we did when we were kids. They get back out there.
The nurses, the school doctor, and Justin and I sat and put a little packet together that if their son or daughter sustains a concussion, that packet goes to them and it tells them about the process that they have to go through. So we thought that was important, that we can just email it to the parent, that 3 or 4 page packet. And some of it is, how they should monitor their child and watch, and then some other things that are do not, for their child to do. You shouldn't be in bright lights, watching TV, computer screen. Those things might lengthen the symptoms of a concussion. So that's all in that packet. And I also, we just brought in a new online registration to clear kids. In the past, it was a blue card that the parents filled out along with a permission slip and a health history. The online is for physicals or for clearing, or combination? It's for the nurse to clear. So what the old process was is the parents would fill out paperwork each season, and submit it to the nurse, and the nurse would check off that they had an updated physical, which they need yearly, and a health history report, which they couldn't hand it in 30 days, within 30 days they have to hand it in. So now it's online. It's the program's Family ID. We're just rolling it out this spring. I looked today, we had 50 some odd parents register their children.
Are interacting with the new program, which
right,
is great.
But what the nice thing on that is it's custom to Pleasantville. So I put a concussion video on there that, talks about what a concussion is, and then the whole return to play process. It's about an 8-minute video. Because a lot of times parents may not visit my athletic website to find things. So on there now is
they
the code
show up at the games, right?
there's the code of conduct, there's the video that I just described, as well as the athletic handbook. So by clicking on it, it's a lot more accessible because they see it now, because they have to go on Family ID. And the nice thing about Family ID too is once they put their general information on there, their physician, that stays there. So if they do this when their son or daughter is a 7th grader, they don't have to fill that out each season. It comes up.
It just stays with them.
It stays with them. The only thing they're changing or modifying is the health history, or if there's any change in any of the information. If they change pediatricians, they need to put that on there.
So it streamlines the process for the whole team pretty much.
And it's very convenient for parents, because parents sometimes in the fall would forget and they're on vacation.
Right.
And then the cards don't get through. They can do it from their phone now.
Does the school pediatrician have the same access to that system as well?
Yes.
If they need to
she can check. She now no longer has to come in and grab the paperwork to review it, like the physicals, if they're done by their own pediatrician.
Right.
She has to view each one of those.
She has to check off.
Now, if a parent uploads the physical, she can check it right there. She has access to it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put Justin on there as a contact as well. So it's another spot for people to find his email.
So Dr. Roy, Kristen Roy is the school pediatrician. She's also going to be on our healthcare expert panel for the symposium on March 7th, because I think the school pediatrician plays a key role in that process. But at the end of the day, look, parents, these students are minors still. They're still under the age of 18. So the parents still ultimately have the end decision based on their health care decision making. So does the school pediatrician, she has a role, but she still coordinates with the parents, and then the parents ultimately, can take their children wherever they seem best for their health care.
For treatment,
Yes, but ultimately she has the final say, and that's state ed law.
Okay.
She is what's called the chief medical doctor of the school district.
The school. Okay.
So she has the ultimate say with clearing a child, or for instance,
some parents may not understand that process, and if not that there would be some major conflict with another physician potentially, but it can happen.
Well, there's a program that the state runs for 7th and 8th graders, but we just do it. It's board policy in 8th grade that if you have an exceptional athlete, they can possibly try out for a JV team or a varsity team, and it's called the athletic placement process, which has changed over the last year. And one of the things is maturation,
right?
and it's recommended maturation. And if she feels that the student isn't developed, depending on the sport they're playing, and the kids that they're playing against, then she can say this child's not ready just for that.
Right.
If she does give them the clear, then there's a process that I have to do a physical fitness test.
Testing process.
They have to pass 4 out of the 5 components.
And who administers that test?
I usually do. Once in a while, a middle school PE teacher will do it for me. He knows, Bob Jordan knows the process. But since we implemented the state implemented the new APP process, I've been doing the testing.
All right, great. Joe, as a principal, how big a role is the athletic environment within the school? I know you have to juggle so much, but how important is having a good, solid athletic program?
So we have about 66 some odd % of our students
play
who
at least one
participate. Unique
sport.
athletes. So I would say that certainly we've got great participation. I always talk about the high school experience. and I say that it depends upon the activities that students elect to become involved in. Obviously, a lot of our students are involved in athletics. I would say the role that it plays in the high school. I was a former coach myself before I became a school administrator, and I always liked the routine, the discipline, the dedication, the emphasis on teamwork. If you think about the 21st century skills that we seek to develop in the classroom, communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking, many of those skills are so important to a successful team. And that's the nice thing about the coaching staff that we have. John earlier talked about the fact that our coaches are certified in both first aid and CPR, but there's also coaching certification that they go through in terms of how to work with adolescents, how to motivate them. So it's not maybe the screaming and hollering that you might imagine.
Right.
When you think about a coach working with 17 and 18-year-old students, there's some great learning that goes on, with our teams. And I would say that the athletic teams really are an extension of our classroom.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
to balance academics with athletics and arts and other interests of these students, I think is important for all of these kids, especially looking at colleges and looking at things moving forward in life.
Well, the balance piece is interesting.
Yeah.
I would say that based on the work that I've done with young people in a high school environment, for almost a decade now, is that when they've got that schedule and that structure in place, it really lends itself to a lot of success because they've developed that discipline. And the other thing is they're around like-minded students, right? And they're around positive adults. And I think all those elements add, for a great experience, both academically and athletically.
Yeah, I have a number of teams that they have a program in the state called Scholar Athlete Team. And the majority of the team, if they achieve 90% or greater in the classroom, the team gets awarded, a certificate, and I usually recognize them at the board meetings for that. And the majority of our teams have achieved that. So, Joe's absolutely right that the kids that have a busy schedule sometimes really thrive because they
focused on point, all the above, right?
They need to set goals. They need to manage time. So I think they actually anyone who's involved in school activities as a high school kid, I think really does better in college because they've learned to manage their time.
Right.
So certainly when you're on an athletic team in a school our size, I have a lot of 3-sport athletes or minimum 2-sport athletes.
I think it's important to encourage students to definitely on the earlier years, freshman, sophomore years, to participate. Football, we all hear about football numbers going down. I don't know if that's the case in this particular school district or not. Across other schools, I think it is maybe an issue. The fear factor of concussions or long-term injuries or severe injuries. And I think education is a big part of that, and teaching.
Well, it's interesting. If you look at some of the athletics, some of the sports that you would think were the least likely to be the most dangerous, statistically, as far as head injuries go. I'm thinking about soccer, cheerleading.
Yeah, cheerleading, right.
Very dangerous sports when you consider head injuries.
We had probably more head injuries in soccer than we did in football this year.
Yeah, not.
And our football numbers are healthy. I mean, 66% of the kids in the school played at least one sport.
Right.
We have healthy athletic programs.
Right.
I mean, I have
Which is great.
18 programs, 40 some odd teams, 60 coaches. I have a very veteran coaching staff for the most part that really do a nice job working with the kids.
Well, what I like about this community is the participation, numbers are good. It's a active community, a lot of sports. I think it ties into the progressiveness of the school district as well. And then, the school taking the extra steps to make sure that the athletes are taken care of. If injuries were to occur on the playing field, having the right professionals in place, athletic trainers, school nurses, school physicians. And then, budgeting, there's a process people don't understand. You have to, make, amendments and work on different things to fit the budget for these things.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, the numbers because of, parents or fear that their kid or child is going to get hurt in football. My coaching staff is going to a clinic shortly, and one of the classes they're going to go to is rugby tackling. that our team is going to go more towards a rugby tackling because it is safer.
It is safer. They don't use their heads.
Right,
Because they're not wearing helmets, right?
Because the headgear is a little
But
different.
it's not only to prevent injuries, but they feel it's a better form of tackling.
Right. That's interesting.
So that's one of the things they're excited to implement next year. So that
Giving away
that's
all your
exciting.
secrets on public camera here, but
That's okay.
yeah. I know the school got new turf this year. So how did that work out? I mean,
We were on it September 1, so the
Did
kids.
you notice anything injury-wise? I mean, just out of curiosity, from new to old, any significant changes?
It's hard because it was only one season so far, the fall season. The kids and the coaches like it.
New cushioning,
It's
new
got
traction.
it does have a cushion underneath.
Nobody misses the rubber pellets.
No,
Got a lot of positive feedback about that.
And the turf that would get on everyone's clothes.
Yes.
Right.
So it was due, but it's the kids and the coaches really like it. The infill, which as you know is cork and coconut hair, is
less
it's
toxic. Hopefully, I know that's a big topic of discussion. But
I actually just went Monday to a.
But again, another health thing that the school district did take into consideration, and hopefully it's the best decision.
It's
for everyone.
it's definitely much cooler.
Yeah.
It's considerably noticeable on a hot day that infill
Which makes a difference
it
because
cooler.
there's heat exhaustion issues and heat acclimation problems in September and August, and these are all things that.
And the track is now full size, so I'm going to be hosting 3 varsity meets this spring and 1 modified, hopefully for the middle school.
That's great. Oh, that's all part of that same project. So.
Yeah, that's one of the issues with having a small campus. That if you have a track meet, then all the other teams really cannot participate or practice, even on the small turf because it's lacrosse. The balls can't go on the track. So that's going to be the interesting thing, trying to see if I can get those teams to play away that day. Or find another alternate site for them to practice while we have the track meet. But we have 90 kids probably signed up for track, so.
Okay.
Our track teams, both indoor in the winter, and then our spring track teams are just exploding in terms of interest and number of students on the teams.
Well, look, everything that I've learned about the Pleasantville School District, I think you guys are on track to do great things for your students, your student athletes. You're making a lot of right decisions when it comes to their safety and their health. Whether they're an athlete or not, I'm sure there's a lot of programs for non-athletes as well. We had the symposium that you guys are graciously hosting. We're going to have a lot of great experts. A couple of orthopedic surgeons, physical therapists, athletic trainer Justin Lopez, who works with the school.
Our high school nurse.
The high school nurse, high school pediatrician. And I think it'll just be very educational for the community, parents of students playing sports to understand what their plan should be. I think it's really about them. It's not about the school. It's about the child and getting them back.
Well, I
to
think
play.
I can speak for both of us that Joe and I really like our jobs and we like being in the high school with the Pleasantville kids.
Yeah,
It's a lot of fun.
It is.
It's a great community, and we look forward to this night on March 7th and bringing more awareness to some of the topics that we spoke about tonight, and just trying to wrap it up and get people, if they walk out of there with just like an action plan and they actually do something the next day, we've accomplished our goal to make sure that there's that oh no moment when Johnny goes down on the football field and everyone's like, we don't want anyone on like Pleasantville Moms, anyone know good orthopedic or anyone know, they should already kind of have a plan in place for themselves. They should know who the athletic trainer is at the school. That could be a point of contact. Obviously, if it's an EMS situation, it is what it is. They go where they have to go. But there's a lot of things that aren't EMS situations that still need a plan. So
absolutely,
we'll discuss all that. But I look forward.
And certainly, I'd like to encourage any parents who are watching, if there are any particular questions or concerns that you may have related to athletics, the support that we do around academics and athletics, contact John or myself, directly. We'd be more than happy to sit down with you and share any information that we can.
Yeah, because I think that's important. Academics, obviously should be priority, and then athletics, but the combination of it is really important.
You need a healthy balance.
A healthy balance, exactly. And getting those kids back in the on the field and back in the classroom at their highest level. And that's the goal. So thank you, gentlemen, for being on
you.
Health IQ.
Thanks for
It was
having
a great
us.
show, and we look forward to Monday, March 7th, I believe it is. So,
See you then.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for watching Health IQ. We will see you at our next show. Thank you. Bye-bye.